Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursdays with Mariam Mwacharo. Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the Round Table. Fresh discussions, direct probe in Sabah Show only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ikiwa ni tarehe 12 ya mwezi Muharram mwaka 1441 sawia na tarehe 11 mwezi Septemba mwaka 2019. Karibu katika Business Chat. Jina langu ni Ibtisam Jamal, tukipeperusha katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi, msikiti wa Jamia. Hii leo mada yetu ni kwa tunazungumzia masuala ya sekta ya matatu. Vipi watu wanafikiria kwamba matatu industry it is really unorganized and ethical, and with over the years it has changed with coming up with digital matatus. I have with me Simon Kimutai from Matatu Owners Association. Karibu. I have Mary Mwangi from Data Integrated. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Thank you. Welcome to Horizon TV Business Chat. We start with how is the matatu industry so important? Over the years, it has been the dominant mode of transport in Kenya, carrying approximately of 70%. I'll start with you, Mr. Kimu. How is it important?
Well, public transport is a facilitator of economic activities. If today all public transport stopped, the government cannot collect a single cent. It's a very important sector that provides movements, giving movements from one destination to the other. And most people move because they want to be involved in economic activities. So it's very, very important. Children go to school at times, though nowadays most schools have board buses, but majority still use public transport to get to their places of learning. So it's a very important industry, despite the fact that it's been called names and nobody seems to be appreciating it. I think it's, well, shortly I would say it's an important industry.
Very, you're smiling.
Yeah, the reason I smile is because I completely agree that there is a very important role that public transport, the matatus especially in Kenya, play. And I don't feel like it's also appreciated, because if you are trying to go to work or go to a place, you've never missed to go because there's no transport. You step out to the bus stop and there's a matatu there waiting for you. So people tend to take these things for granted. Yes, it's not perfect. It can be improved. There's a lot of things that it has shortcomings, but the role it's playing should not be underestimated.
With over the years, also people are saying that matatu industry is unorganized. With coming up with digital matatu, will it change it, Mr. Kimutai?
Well, you know, the biggest problem with our eyes is only that when you do good, nobody looks at it, nobody recognizes it. But there's something small that is not right will be blown out of proportion. The industry, yes, you could say there seems to be a disorganization. And it's because it's not been given a chance to self-regulate and be able to do its work where people can appreciate in terms of organization. Unfortunately, this is an area of great interests. The form in which it does its work is to collect cash. Fares are collected cash. So it attracts a lot of parties, policemen, councilmen, who are supposed to be ensuring that everybody complies. But unfortunately, they don't go there to ensure that to correct what is wrong. They go there to collect revenues for themselves. And you can call it a bribe, you can call it extortion, you can call it anything. But the biggest problem that is in the industry is the cash that is inside the vehicle.
Mary, do you think the digital matatus, coming up with digital matatus, is a solution?
Absolutely. I believe it's a solution. And I can go a step further. It's not just the cash that's a problem. It's actually also, I would say, the operations and the management of the public transport. If you look at Kenya, we are having close to over 700 SACCOs in the country. And so each one, if they self-regulate, it becomes very difficult to have a cohesive system. So in one route, you can find there's about 3 or 4 SACCOs, and each one at a bus stop is trying to get the passengers to get into one particular SACCO's buses. So it looks chaotic, you know, because in itself, how it's operating is not coordinated. So to me, digitization would bring in that coordination within the system that's required to bring more order in how people even know where the buses are. If you travel, say, to like a bit more advanced economies and where they have actually publicly run public transport, you find that they do have a common system for each route where passengers are able to tell and predict the buses that are coming, the routes, the stops, and the fares are consistent. So in Kenya, when you have these kinds of competition, just even in bus stops, then there's a competition of getting the passengers in, changing the fares, lowering your fares so you can get more people in. All this tends to bring some kind of chaos. But we believe that digitization would give that platform where things would be more, there'll be more of an equilibrium, there'll be more of stated expectations, standards would be set. It's much easier to do so with a digitized platform.
She talked about SACCOs. We can see several SACCOs in a certain route. I live in South B, so we see so many SACCOs in a certain route. What's the purpose of having so many SACCOs in one route?
You know, earlier on, Matatus were operated by individuals. You had nowhere to subscribe to in terms of behavior. And Matatu Owners Association recommended that we operate from a corporate entity, where a route will subscribe to rules and regulations put in by the owners of the business. And now, formation of SACCOs was done, but there came segmentation, splitting these SACCOs, where people formed companies for purposes of gaining. When you form a SACCO company, if anybody wants to join you, there's a fee that is paid. If it is a company, the directors of that company will enjoy that. And owners now will just be paying a management fee on a daily basis. That's why you see so many companies coming up. SACCO was a very good idea because it was empowering them, the might of putting in savings and ensuring they can sustain their businesses. Then now, unfortunately, a few individuals started, you know, it was allowed that companies can also operate, not only SACCOs. So you see, this, everybody wants to have his own. You have your own rules and regulations, you have your own management fee to be paid to you. That's why you see so many of them. This has caused competition, which is not healthy. We are not competing for services. We are competing for passengers. Now, when you compete for passengers, then there's bound to be chaos. So we have made a recommendation that there be the numbers of qualification, that's the number of vehicles to qualify for a SACCO should be placed to be very high so that people can merge. And if it's a route, let's have one management that now will put in a queuing system and a system that will have the first vehicle be served, as opposed to having shoutings in the streets where you have very many touts, you know, scouting for passengers and shouting. It be that the first vehicle would be served first, and there wouldn't be any of those touts shouting around.
We can see several Matatus doing that. I can attest to that.
I know. This is because of the segmentation. Every other company or SACCOs are competing against the other one for the same passengers who are going to the same route. That's the biggest problem we have. But if there was no competition, it would be very easy. The vehicle first on the queue, passengers would be directed to get to that vehicle.
You talked about corruption. how people taint Matatu industry as a corrupt industry. Is it true? And do we blame Matatu industry so much that we don't focus on other people who are also collaborating and increasing the corruption in that industry?
You know, let me confess this, that in Kenya, this is the most visible corrupt practice perpetrated by those who are supposed to be fighting it, those who are supposed to be enforcing the law against the other person who's playing part is either a conductor or a driver. But come to think, let's put the other side of the coin. Who today would want to give out money for nothing? Nobody. So there must be something that is hidden. It's extortion. There's blackmail. That if you don't pay this, then we'll get fault. We'll fault you, and you will go to court. So, and they are given, even if they commit an offense, they're given a window to exit. You know, today, if a policeman flagged you down, and you know, maybe you had picked a passenger from a wrong place, he doesn't want to give you a ticket. He wants to explain to you that you have picked passengers in the wrong place, and I'm going to take you to court. And do you know how much you'll be fined? 20,000. Then he gives you an option. Do you have 1,000? So it's,
I mean,
it's natural that you will get an easy option to go. So we have, one thing is that there's too many policemen either pretending to be ensuring that everybody is compliant, giving direction and doing that. But in real sense, there's something else that they're doing that has not been brought forth. Otherwise, I'm telling you, we have made recommendations that we lessen this traffic policemen. Let's have, if they come, if it's Nairobi, they come to the streets, their work will just to be ensure that there is no clog up. But this issue of entering a Matatu, and then after some meters you drop off, then you enter another one. What is this that you're doing that that you'll drop within maybe 50 meters off? So it's crazy. What gives or makes it worse is that this now has become a precedent that you will do anything. You'll pick a passenger from anywhere, and there's no way you'll be taken. This driver will do that. It's not his money that he's using to give to the policeman. It belongs to me. And you know, this is an area where by the end of the day, he's the one to give himself a salary. So does he care? So they'll do anything. This has, you know, corrupt practice in public transport is one which is contributing greatly to confusion and chaos in public transport.
Mary, is it corrupt, and what's the solution?
I think corruption is everywhere in Kenya. And seriously, everywhere I've looked at, and we had this conversation a few days ago in a different forum. And what we're saying is this: we can use technology to put controls in some of these places to actually reduce it or disincentivize the practice of corruption. So like as what we've done at Data Integrated is we've been able to put cameras inside the Matatus. So every time a police comes in, the first thing they look, they see their camera. So they know you're being recorded if you're being paid. Of course now the corruption is going to be out to the side, but then also another thing we also do is digitizing the Matatus themselves. So if a policeman says, oh, you are overspeeding or you are doing this, we have historical reports that actually some SACCOs have been able to use them in court when they've said your bus was overspeeding. You were in an accident because your bus was overspeeding. We say, here's a historical report of how these buses moved for the last 1 month. So with digitization that we are putting in the vehicles, we are able to capture some of this. When there is faulting or wrongdoing or even small crimes happening within the SACCOs themselves, we also have a digitized process that is showing how much money is being collected by that SACCO. So at the end of the day, me as an owner, I will know where the money went. I will have an accountable system to know this happened. And when you're able to put now controls that are actually automatically gathering the data without any human interference, then it reduces the opportunities for corruption to actually take place. It doesn't completely stop it. I mean, human beings are human beings, but at least it reduces that obvious ones that we are seeing. I have to say that also within a system, we have to build the incentives differently. If you look at how the Matatus and we were looking at how the stakeholders within the whole system are operating. So you find that it's much easier to pay out the bribe because, like you said, if I go to court, I lose a day's work, I pay 20,000, or I pay 1,000 and I be on my way. Now, is the policing system or our court system also very efficient also?
Okay, we'll answer that question after the break. Hold on to that thought, and also Kimutai will talk about the changes you are making. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka mada ni moto. Mada yetu ni kuhusiana na sekta ya matatu. Unaweza kuchangia kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii @Horizontv Kenya, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Pia unaweza kupiga katika nambari zetu zilioko katika runinga zako. Tupate upumziko fupi, tarejea baada muda usiokuwa mrefu.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Wake up to exciting mornings every day. Active Matatu with Muhammad Obura. Tech Tuesday with Yusuf Farah. Wednesday, the special edition Business Chat with Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursdays with Mariam Mwacharo. Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the round table. Fresh discussions, direct probes in Sabah Show, only on Horizon TV.
On the next episode,
how many a times we have leaders who are Muslim leaders and they don't want to stick to Islam and they make the people follow Islam and they build the people as good Muslim because of the fear of their throne, for one reason or the other. Maybe because some superpowers will never allow them. Maybe because they think they are protected by them. If they try to follow the straight path, they actually will be overthrown. Maybe because they think that if we have democracy, we will not have the power we have. Maybe because they think the power we have, we are owning almost the whole kingdom or whatever that may be. But now, if we want to practice really Islam and justice and democracy and everything, then we will lose these things. It's the same.
كتاب الله دستوري
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Karibu katika awamu yetu ya pili ya Business Chat. Mada yetu ya leo ni sekta ya matatu. Kabla hatujaweza chukua break, we were talking about the changes in the matatu industry before I cut you short. Sorry, but you can continue right now.
Okay, so what we were saying is we've been able to digitize a Matatu itself, and what we've been able to do is put an accountability system where now the drivers are able to know the trips. We can do scheduling of the vehicles, so now they don't have to be having people at the bus stop trying to get people into the Matatus. Most people will know when their buses are coming. They'll be able to know when to get in. The route managers will also be able to plan which is the first bus, so the drivers already know when it's their turn. So if this is adapted by more circles, actually, it would totally formalize the way the public transport in Kenya is working. We will be a platform. It will be a platform like when you're looking for an Uber, you look and you know this is where my Uber is. You call it and then you go there. But for public transport, the way we are looking at it is you will know which buses are actually there, which bus is coming, which one is first in line. So you're able to go to the one that's first in line. You don't have to wait where people are sitting in the bus and acting like it's full, alafu mkiingia ndo wanashuka. So that won't be necessary anymore because you will know actually how many more seats are remaining for that bus to be full. You'll be able to look at this. We are providing a passenger app to the passengers themselves that's gonna enable them or empower them to know how to reconnect. If you're going, say, from here to Mlolongo and you still need to go somewhere else, so it will tell you which bus do you need to go to, where do you get your bus, what's the fare for that bus, what's the rating for that driver. So you'll also be able to rate your trip. You'll be able to say this driver was driving nicely, the condition of the bus. So you'll be able to put all this. So what we are trying to do is enhance those types of incentives that improves the customer journey. So within this app, we feel that we will now have the contribution of the passenger who has always been left out in most of the solutions that have come out. And then we are also adding a cashless solution on it. So now from your phone, you'll be able to tap and pay and go around without needing to have cash. So we're taking the cash out, but it's on a voluntary basis, not where the government is coming in and saying you have to have a cashless solution. We feel that if you give enough incentives to most of the stakeholders in this value chain, from the bus circles, the companies, the bus owners, and now to the drivers and the conductors, we have some solution for them too that gives them an incentive to help them when they are trying to promote this solution. You don't want them to sabotage it, but you want to help them to help you promote it. And then now for the passengers also to just make them feel secure and also in control in the system. So on this platform where we are looking at, you have people like you were saying, like you have the new Uber-like platforms that are coming for the buses, right? So the difference is most of those systems will not work for the current situation as we have it in Nairobi, where you have the owners, where you have the circles, you have this formation that is already working. So our goal is we look at what is already there and we're saying, how do we improve it? How do we formalize it? How do we make the people's experience within it, everybody that's a stakeholder, to feel that their needs are actually catered for and that it's adding value to their everyday commute for the passengers, for the owners, in how their business is operating. It's actually growing there.
We've talked about cashless. We'll talk about it, Mr. Kibuta. I know it still pains you. But do you agree such moves should be done to our normal matatus?
I would say technology has come to make our work easy and perfect it. Kenya is a leading hub in this region, if not Africa, in terms of technology. And I don't see why we can't solve this problem that is always around us by using technology. I have mentioned, I'm on record to have even engaged very many parties on digitizing fare collection. I remember I launched a cashless system, a fare collection system where nobody would have to use money in terms of cash, because that's where the problem lies. Interested parties are attracted by the fluid of the way it is, the cash that is in the vehicle. If today Matatus are operating in a cashless system, there's no policeman who would be compromised, because drivers don't have them there. They can't be paying their money for mistakes they're making, so they would obey the law. And corrupt practice will definitely be done below. There could be some kind of small percentage remaining, but it will do it below by over 70, 80%. Cashless system is a system that would help the investor. It would help the government in terms of being rated as most corrupt area. And also, it will make people obey the law. Drivers and conductors don't obey the law because of this money that does not belong to them, and they can use it at will. So technology, I believe, would be the best thing. And number two is that it doesn't only, the system doesn't only collect money, as it has been said, but cameras can be mounted inside. If there are issues of, people stealing from others, it would be easily be captured. And I'm sure everybody will be proud either to hold a card or to use a phone to pay. And we know very well today, even today Safaricom has been involved in many innovations in technology. And using the phone would be one. There can be a card that can be used, number two, which can make it very easy, tap and go, like in advanced economies. One thing that I would want to say is that I sit in a task force where we're trying to do what we call bus rapid transit, and it will come with all this technology. But somehow, Matatu is the biggest. That would only solve a very small problem in the country. Matatu will still be having, to ferry passengers from one destination to the other in big numbers. Today we have over 100,000 Matatus in the country. And I would say middle and lower class rely on public transport 100%, Matatus. So, we had indicated earlier that these are services that don't seem to be important, and every time they're castigated, and yet if their services were withdrawn in a day, everybody would suffer, including the government. Without movement, there wouldn't be people working in their places of work, which generates revenues, which eventually pay taxes. So it's a very important industry that everybody needs to focus and give ideas on how to improve the services.
You've talked about the cashless card. I think I got one from your association a long time ago. Why did it fail?
Well, it pains us to go back because we brought in the president to launch it. And eventually we appeared like we had lied to the president. And I want to correct it. We had all we put all our hearts there. We had decided that was the way to go. But apparently, there was a tug of war. Every bank wanted to have a pie of the cake by having the money is collected from digital platform to their, to their places, to their accounts. So there was scramble by the banks. Every bank wanted to come in now. So they had to, there are these conditions that you can't have one card. But for us, it was a solution for Matatus, which was only one card by 1963. But every bank wanted to have it, and they say the system has got to be interoperable. Now, how do you integrate all this to be able, there's a card from Barclays Bank, there's a card from everywhere that needs to talk to each other. So by scrambling, the whole issue came down. We never had proper support from the Ministry of Transport, where the NTSA lies, and they never provided a solution to it. So it just died a natural death. But we haven't given up.
Mary, what's the solution to the problem?
To me, I hear what Kipchai is saying. We were actually there when this was also happening. It's when we were actually trying to test our products that we had locally developed. And one of the key things that came out of that is interoperability. And I have been to several panels and events across the African continent. And one of the things that's coming out very clearly from most of the central banks is that interoperability is actually something that's going to be needed, whether it's through the banks and the mobile money platforms. But if you look at even Kenya today, more than 80% of the transactions happening are still in cash. Even with M-Pesa, and as popular as it is, we're still doing a lot of cash transactions. And what will need to happen is the fact that an interoperable system will have to be there for any cashless system to work. And this will be very important for us to try and develop something that's interoperable, even when you go to a cashless system within the public transport system. If you look at most systems around the world for public transport, a lot of them are moving towards an interoperable system. They're saying it's not going to be a closed loop system like it was previously. They want people to be able to use your bank card wherever you go. If you look at what Visa and MasterCard are doing in most of Africa, they're issuing a lot of cards too. And then we have the telecoms also playing a big role in this digitization process. So I believe that interoperability will need to be part of our planning when you're planning public transport for it to be quite successful in Kenya and in the region.
Kimutai, over the years, even this year, we've seen so many crimes happening inside the matatus. And yes, yeah, we've seen people being shoved out of a moving vehicles, people being thieves coming into the cars. So many crimes are happening. Do you think the drivers and conductors should be vetted thoroughly? And there's a notion that some drivers and conductors are working with some criminals to extort money and valuable things from passengers.
Well, one thing that I would want to say is that criminal activities are criminal activities. It can be an activity of public transport. When you commit a crime, if you work here and you go outside there and mug people, it cannot be associated. Well, definitely there could be that connection, but I don't think the norms of the company will have to take the responsibility. Well, all said and done, it's very sad to hear, because I've not witnessed that there are crimes that have been meted on passengers or customers by those who have been supported by the same person. Being shoved out as a criminal activity, and a person should be held personally liable for that. And that, vetting is vetting. Before a conductor or a driver receives their PSV licenses, they are vetted by the DCI. So they are provided with certificate of good conduct. And so it's very difficult now to say they have to be vetted properly, because the only people who have instruments of vetting are the police, the DCI. So when we get them, we employ them on the basis of having been licensed by the government. And when they come to work for us and are involved in a criminal activity, then that should be the work he's doing should be shoved aside, and the person be dealt with as a criminal. We've seen, or we've heard, that there could be some who have colluded with pickpockets, or maybe to carjack a vehicle and probably take away valuables from passengers. If a person is caught, or rather there's proof that he's done so, there's a law of the land that needs to deal with the person squarely. For us as investors in public transport, our interest is to make profits from our investments, or return of investment. So we don't want to be associated to that kind of behavior, and any circle that would find somebody liable for the same would be kicked out, because it's business just like any other business. But it's very unfortunate that some people probably who could be working in the industry are criminals. We condemn them. We don't want them. It's unfortunate that crime of a person is a criminal. You can't get it from the looks. It's the deeds that probably will come after he has done it. So it's regrettable to hear any person being shoved out, and it should not be condoned. And at any moment when a conductor gets into that kind of position, there are many passengers. They should rescue their fellow passenger and probably report the criminal activity that could be meted on one of them. So it's not our core business. Ours is to ferry passengers.
Well, thank you so much. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka unaweza kuchangia katika madai kama una maswali kuhusiana na sekta ya matatu. Hii ndio fursa yako kuweza kupiga simu kupitia nambari zetu zilizoko katika runinga zako, au unaweza wasiliana nasi katika mitandao ya kijamii @Horizontv Kenya, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Tupate pumziko fupi, tarejea baada ya muda usiokuwa mrefu.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا.
Ni kitabu kitukufu
Qur'ani ni kitabu ambacho cha miujiza
kilichoteremshwa kwa mpangilio,
hazikuletwa harufu hizi za mkato moja kwa moja,
hakuna mfano wake,
na hamwezi nyinyi Makureishi kuwa ni wenye kutunga kitabu kama hiki, ingawa zimetumia harufu zile ambazo zimezitumia katika kuandika au katika kusema.
miujiza yake Al-Malik.
Mwenyezi Mungu ana uwezo usiokuwa na kifani.
Ni malengo ya Qur'an.
Khazain zote za ardhi na samawati ziko mikononi mwake.
Sheikh Muhammad Badamana na uchambuzi wa Qur'an kwa undani kila Alhamisi saa 3 usiku kwenye Horizon TV.
Wake up to exciting mornings every day. Active Jumatatu with Muhammad Obura. Tech Tuesday with Yusuf Farah. Wednesday, the special edition Business Chat with Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursdays with Mariam Mwacharo. Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the round table. Fresh discussions, direct probe in Sabah Show, only on Horizon TV.
On the next episode, Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Karibu katika awamu yetu ya 3 na ya mwisho ya Sabah Show, awamu yetu ya Business Chat. Tulipokuwa tuko katika pumziko fupi, tulizungumza kuhusiana na squad. Unasema inaitwa Kamagera.
Unakuta kuwa kuna vijana ambao ni madereva ambao pengine hawana kazi, na madereva wenzao wanakreatia kazi. So what happens is that for him to be able to sustain a living, they want a collusion within themselves. And you find that a driver wants to have breakfast. Akifika pale kuna hoteli karibu mwisho, anamwachia driver mwingine aende amtafutie passenger either kwa estate kisha mpate hapo. Wanaitwa squad. Ama saa zingine anakula, huyu mwingine anazungusha, anakwenda mpaka maybe if it's from an estate to town and back. And you'll see that in most cases, some of these people are not compliant. They have not qualified. And when they get involved in an accident, they run away and leave the owner in big problems. We do not permit this. This is an arrangement between drivers and drivers. And in most cases, you'll see that accidents that do happen, they are the ones who cause. So we've tried so much to fight it, but apparently we are fighting a war that we are not there. You could be having other things to do, and you've employed a driver trusting that he is going to drive your vehicle in the hours that that has been prescribed. But apparently he goes there and becomes a boss and employs another driver. So this is it's against the law, and we do not support the same. We have introduced in some circles and companies that there be relievers, because who are qualified, and we have their documents. And since the law requires that a person works for 8 hours, then he relieves the others from going beyond the required hours in labor laws. So you find that the others take advantage of the same, but otherwise it's illegal for them to take charge and be the drivers of the day.
There are instances on a certain route, I won't mention it, that you'd see the driver and a conductor from 5 to 7 in the evening, they're still the same people. And then when someone dies, they usually comment that he didn't give anyone a chance. He died out of maybe because of the car, certain things. They usually blame that person if he or she wants to work for more than 8 hours.
You see, this becomes a blackmail. Drivers have their own organizations within the areas they're operating from. And you'll find that a good driver will not be wanted by the rest. If you work diligently and you submit all the revenues collected from the passengers to the owner, they don't like you. They will sabotage you in any way, because you are disclosing the secrets that they do have. So so you'll find very good drivers are not in good terms with their fellow drivers. And I think this is because there is no exposure of education or training. Despite the fact that it's a very important industry, the government has invested zero. You'll see like Bandari, they have there are colleges for people who work in the sea, they have colleges for railway, people working the air. The government has invested heavily. In public transport or road transport, there is no training at all, no exposure to any kind of education. You find that commercial schools, driving schools, they guarantee you that if you do 6 lessons, you will get a license, irrespective of whether you'll know how to drive or not. And then after qualification to be a Matatu driver is to have a 4-year-old license, not experience, because how will they check on experience? They don't test you before they hand you the PSV license. You need to be trusted, you need to be trained to handle. There must be kind of sort of exposure in peer training, so that people can handle others in a good way. So you'll find that there is failure from the government, because I would say they should have invested very heavily, since it's main economic facilitator. So we've talked this in many forums, but it appears that nobody's taking interest in it.
Madam Mary, do you think it is important for the drivers and conductors to be trained thoroughly?
I think it's possible. It's actually very important. If you're becoming a pilot, you have to have so many flying hours. So what needs to happen is probably have a system that's able to track how many hours has a driver been driving before they can actually start being in charge of PSVs and being in charge of that many passengers within the bus. And this is easy to actually track. If, say, you have a training school, and then you say for this number of hours you need to be with a regular approved driver, we can put those things. And then one of the other things that I agree with Kimutai is that there is no training for the drivers and the conductors. And there needs to be a way for capacity building. And I also feel that not just the government needs to do it, I also feel that SACCOs can also facilitate some of these trainings for the code of conduct, within a SACCO. When you join a SACCO, this is how we expect you to behave, hold you accountable as the driver and as the conductor. And these are easy things that can be done even 20, 30 minutes, maybe a week. You have a meeting where you invite people, you invite the drivers and the conductors, and you have that forum where you're letting them know what worked this week, what didn't work this week. Build incentives within that system that is going to reward good behavior for the drivers and the conductors. Yes, also one of the things I've noticed, even the circles that we have digitized, is that these drivers work very long hours. By 4:30 a.m., they're already starting their journey, and then they close around 8. So if you look at those hours, when you wake up at 4:30 a.m., you don't have time for breakfast. So that you need someone to stop you at that time. There's a certain amount of money that you need to have. I think also being very strict on the requirements of how many hours is a driver driving in a day, because the circles do not regulate that. Yes, the law is there, but the government doesn't have a way of checking. But the circles have a way of knowing how long this driver has been driving for the day. They're the ones scheduling these drivers. They're the ones giving them trips. So I feel that personally there's also another responsibility that the circles need to take in terms of enforcement of this regulation to make the trips a bit more safer for the passengers. Yes, they're there to make money, but it shouldn't just be just the money alone. There should also be some kind of responsibility that comes in to the customer that the circles need to be providing.
Okay. The government is planning to introduce the BRT buses. How will it affect the Matatu industry at large, Mr. Simon Kimutai?
Well, BRT is a practice that is known to be carrying passengers en masse and has dedicated lanes. It is the government's responsibility to ensure movements that do not clog up. You can imagine the way Nairobi is now, another 10 years to come, what will happen?
Because usually it's so hard coming out from town.
Yeah, it is the government's responsibility. So it's them to create that environment. BRT is a system that will rely on infrastructure in the sense that it's got to have dedicated lanes. I sit in the workforce, the task force that is looking into this. And this is a practice in successful economies in the world. And it will add value because it's like when I came to Nairobi in 1980, I don't know whether you were born then, you're not. I came and I used to leave my place of work because I'd just been employed. I know I would get a Kenya bus at 9 o'clock, I'll get it and be in town at 9:30. So Kenya is struggling to get back to where it was before. And it's because it was never protected. Good practice was never protected. Allowed for chaotic practices because of interests and gains by those who are supposed to be enforcing the law. And BRT will be a reflection of what we had before, where you would leave your house at this time and get there. BRT is a system that the government would want to bring in a pilot test and tell people invest in this area. And it is scheduled. It will give a service. It will start from one corridor, and then people will be allowed to invest. And there must be a regulator that would be able to, because it's scheduled, you can't miss the time. You cannot stop to look for passengers. The government will put an organization, set up a BOC, bus operating company, that would be able to put in digital systems that will make sure that every time you know that this bus will arrive there, it will arrive there. And if there are losses in a bus, the government will be able to fill the gap so that in case the bus goes without passengers, it will be paid for the miles that it has covered. So it's compatible. It's something that is complementing the other. BRT does not provide door-to-door service. BRT works on a line. It's just a corridor. You see, if today it started from Thika Road, for instance, it doesn't go into Y, it doesn't go to any other. So there must be feeder business that we feed into BRT. But this will take some time. But it's always good to start to go. And this investment, people will be allowed to invest, not necessarily owning one bus or necessarily owning a bus, but you can buy shares in a company that will be put in place to allow you to get revenues from the operations. it's a way, it's a different from what it's very different from what we do in Matatu. We're still in the process of, getting to understand it better and value addition to Matatu operators. And that we've visited several countries that are of the same practice. And of course, when we look at a country, a city is bigger than anybody. And at one time, if we continue the way we are doing, the country movement will, not even country, the city movement will come to a halt. This actually, in most cases, will target mainly personal vehicle users. Matatus are only about 20,000 in Nairobi. But how many personal vehicles do we have?
Immediately end the month.
When you have money, you remove 3 of your vehicles. When you don't have money, maybe you use 1. So, and we have over 100, at times they blame Matatus for congestion. No, they run away from congestion. That's why they climb on pavements and drive off. So it's the small vehicle that BRT could be. If today I can be able to get out of my house, get to a stop where I would get a BRT that will take me in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes, I'm in the city, I'd rather leave my vehicle because it's expensive to pay for fuel and parking in town and security. So it's a noble idea that will be a win-win situation for every person.
Thank you so much. Madam Mary, your parting shots, finishing shot.
Okay, so what I would say is that we think that to solve Nairobi's transport problems, we will need more than one solution. The BRT is a really, really good solution that's going to be part of it. But then, like Kimutai said, we have 20,000 Matatus. What happens to them meanwhile? So our job is to try and formalize these Matatus so that they complement formal transport. And in the end, hopefully bring them into this formal transportation platform where they will be operating in the same way that BRT operates, not just in Kenya, but across other countries.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kimutai, for coming. Thank you so much, Madam Mary, for coming. Na mtazamaji, tumefika tamatu ya business chat na awamu yetu ya Sabah show hii leo siku ya Jumatano. Kumbuka hapo kesho utaungana na Mariam Mwacharo na Healthy Thursday. Kutoka kwangu naambia masalam na nashukuru kikosi chote kiliweza kufanikisha kipindi hiki na heri njema kwa producer wetu Muhammad Shakumbo. Maasalam.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا.
Ni kitabu kitukufu
Qur'ani ni kitabu ambacho cha miujiza
kilichoteremshwa kwa mpangilio,
hazikuletwa harufu hizi za mkato moja kwa moja,
hakuna mfano wake,
na hamwezi nyinyi Makureishi kuwa ni wenye kutunga kitabu kama hiki, ingawa zimetumia harufu zile ambazo zimezitumia katika kuandika au katika kusema.
miujiza yake Al-Malik.
Mwenyezi Mungu ana uwezo usiokuwa na kifani.
Ni malengo ya Qur'an.
Khazain zote za ardhi na samawati ziko mikononi mwake.
Sheikh Muhammad Badamana na uchambuzi wa Qur'an kwa undani kila Alhamisi saa 3 usiku kwenye Horizon TV.
Wake up to exciting mornings every day. Active Jumatatu with Muhammad Obura. Tech Tuesday with Yusuf Farah. Wednesday, the special edition Business Chat with Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursdays with Mariam Mwacharo, Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the Round Table. Fresh discussions, direct probe in Sabah show only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.